Commercial and industrial business parks at key locations along major roadways are encouraged as a preferred way to provide sites for commercial and industrial uses, similar to the 2010 Municipal Development Plan. Also similar to the 2010 Municipal Development Plan, the draft MDP recognizes that some commercial and industrial activities may have to be on isolated locations based on their specific needs, and that could sometimes include access to a rail line or a location to serve a customer base, such as the location of the Clearwater store at the junction of Highway 54 and Highway 22. The policies in this section encourage provincial regulators of forestry, oil and gas, and public utilities to seek input from the county and to take into account the county's future plans. The county doesn't directly regulate those types of activities. The policies in this section also encourage a broader role for tourism development across the entire county, as well as more home-based business opportunities, farm subsidiary businesses, and direct reference in the plan about the ability to have direct sales from farms and acreages. The aggregate policies in the economic development section are proposed to switch to the use of direct control as a means of regulating individual projects that come forward. The policies also recognize that the economic development is very much dependent on access to aggregate resources, as they are a key ingredient in building infrastructure such as roads and buildings to help us build our communities. The proposal policies still seek to manage the extraction of gravel and aggregate in a responsible manner. The use of direct control would involve making council the decision maker and give the county more control over the process and the outcome. It retains the ability to have input and it require an open house of the applicant prior to a decision being made. It retains the opportunity for county staff to review and vet applications and provide their advice to county council before a decision is made. And it still provides the opportunity for input for all stakeholders prior to decision being made through a public hearing that would be hosted by county council. The decision of county council on an application would not be subject to appeal by the applicant or any other adjacent or affected parties, and it still allows the opportunity to provide appropriate technical information and consider the impacts on other land uses as part of the decision-making process. The next topic area deals with recreation and special places. These policies are very similar, again, to the 2010 document. The policies, one new policy has been added, relates specifically to campgrounds and recreational uses throughout parts of the county. The policies in this section seek to recognize and protect historic sites and resources. That includes natural features that the public is able to access and enjoy. They seek to encourage recreation and tourism development in the David Thompson development nodes along Highway 11. They seek further development of trail networks for a variety of users and in a variety of locations across the county. They also seek to provide public access to lakes and water courses when lands that are adjacent to those features are undergoing subdivision or development. Finally, the policies in this section allow for further development of campgrounds and recreational uses on a small scale, subject to adequate and safe access being provided, the ability to provide adequate water and wastewater services, the ability to demonstrate minimal impact on agricultural users, and where necessary, the ability to provide appropriate buffers from adjacent properties. The next topic area deals with hamlets. This section is also very similar to the 2010 plan and carries forward many of the same ideas that were communicated 10 years ago. They reaffirm that direction and also reaffirm the need to do more specific plans for two of the growth hamlets that do not already have a plan. The policies in this section seek to maintain the attractiveness of living in all 5 of the hamlets. So that includes Alhambra and Withrow, even though they're not identified as a growth hamlet. It encourages specific planned growth for the 3 designated growth hamlets of Condor, Leslieville, and Nordegg. Of those 3, Nordegg is the one that has a plan. Condor and Leslieville do not have plans to guide their future development and growth. Those 3 locations are identified as growth hamlets to take advantage of existing water and wastewater infrastructure that's already in place and the ability to expand that to a broader area through municipal services or communal services. In particular, or specific to Nordegg, this section encourages a tourism focus for that particular hamlet, given its location in the David Thompson corridor area. The next section deals with subdivision of land. This is a new topic area in the Municipal Development Plan. Some of the policies were previously in natural capital or in the residential area, and they've been pulled into one area here. The key directions focuses on allowing landowners increased opportunity to subdivide their land and to create parcel shapes and sizes that fit their circumstances. And in this particular section, we're talking about subdivisions that are occurring outside of hamlets and outside of a multi-lot residential area. So those are addressed somewhat differently. So this is typically the acreages and fragmented parcels, or first and second parcels out across the areas that are designated as agricultural. The policies of this section seek to allow a landowner of a quarter section to create up to 3 titles. So that could be 2 new parcels plus a balance, and that's how you get to the 3, within any given quarter section. And that could be undertaken without requiring a rezoning under the county's land use bylaw. The policies also make provision for a 4th title to be created, subject to obtaining a formal rezoning or a land use bylaw amendment approval from council. This means that each case for a 4th title will be evaluated on their own individual merits and may or may not be approved. The policies in this section also allow for a variety of parcel sizes and shapes by leaving the specific requirements for sizes and shapes and dimensions to the county's land use bylaw. The county's land use bylaw has not been amended to reflect this direction. That is some follow-up work that would have to take place or occur if this direction in the MDP goes forward. In all cases, parcels that are being created must have a developable area that allows for the placement of a dwelling and supporting water and wastewater services, and must have safe and functional access to a highway or to a county-maintained road. Subdivisions involving more than 4 titles per quarter section will be expected to meet all the requirements of a multi-lot subdivision, which involves preparing more detailed plans in the form of an area structure plan or an outline plan, and all the supporting studies that goes with that size of a project. The next section addresses infrastructure. Key directions relate to the arrangements and expectations providing physical infrastructure for various developments. Most of the ideas have been carried forward from the 2010 MDP. One notable change is a policy clarifying the county's expectations with respect to access being provided via a county-maintained road. And that includes a definition of a county-maintained road. The policies of this section seek to maintain key transportation links like the Rocky Airport and railways that connect the county to the rest of the province and the country broadly. The policies also encourage the province to provide an effective provincial highway system to allow the movement of goods and people through the county and also to other areas beyond the county's boundaries. From there, the policies seek to build an effective county road network that also allows that movement of goods and people. The policies require the use of adequate water and wastewater services for development and subdivisions, which at all times must meet the requirements of Alberta Environment and Parks. The policies in this section also require the adequate management of stormwater runoff. So maintaining that we're managing the volume of water that leaves a property after development and the quality of that water before it reaches a natural water body or a water course. The policies in this section also respect development setbacks from key facilities such as a waste management site or oil and gas facilities. And finally, the policies encourage expanded and improved access to high-speed internet throughout the county. A new policy requiring access to a county-maintained road for all discretionary uses of land, subdivision, and proposed redesignations has been added to this section of the MDP. The requirement for access to a county-maintained road does not apply for a permitted use, so a house or agricultural use of land, but anything above that would require use of a county-maintained road. And what this means is that isolated roads and industry roads that have not been built to a county standard and or are not owned by the county are not considered an acceptable means of access. Next section deals with community and protective services. This area touches on a variety of policies that are services that are enjoyed by the community, but it treats them in a very broad or general manner, trying to make a connection between physical changes and the delivery of services necessary for the community. In some cases, the county is the service provider. The details of those policies are still left to detailed business plans or strategic plans. In other cases, the service provider is another agency, such as a school authority or another level of provincial government. In these cases, the policies in this section encourage the county to advocate on behalf of adequate service levels and quality of service on behalf of all county residents. Finally, some of the services that are enjoyed by the community are delivered through partnerships, such as recreational facilities shared with the village of Caroline, and these two are addressed at a very high-level fashion in this section of the MDP. The next section, dealing with intermunicipal planning and liaison, is about interacting and sharing planning information and getting input from others for other municipalities that surround the county or are within the county's boundaries and other levels of government or First Nations. The policies in this section include sharing information on any planning matters and referring proposed developments back and forth for comments prior to decisions being made. They speak to keeping intermunicipal development plans in place, where the two municipalities have agreed to have one or are required by provincial legislation to have one, and to maintain intermunicipal collaboration frameworks regarding the joint delivery of municipal services with neighboring municipalities, such as recreation, fire, waste management, etc. Finally, this policy in the section encourages the county to provide input into the North Saskatchewan Regional Plan, which is being prepared by the province. The final section of the MDP contains a set of policies that help implement the plan. This section provides guidance on the types of detailed planning and supporting studies that may be required before a development or subdivision can go ahead. So in particular, if a person is proposing a multi-lot residential, what kind of studies and what kind of detailed planning must occur. Some of the key directions in this section of the document include keeping the Clearwater County Rural Code current, up-to-date, and available as a key communication tool to those that are new to living in a rural setting and may not know what to expect. Requiring area structure plans and outline plans and supporting studies like water supply reports and traffic impact assessments prior to decisions being made on major projects. Applying fire smart principles. Obtaining environmental reserve and environmental reserve easements when it is necessary to protect natural features or provide access to natural features when land is being subdivided. Policies also address the ability to obtain municipal reserve for public parks and trails and school sites as land is subdivided and as those needs are identified. A policy also addresses the anticipated review and update of the land use bylaw to implement the key directions of the Municipal Development Plan. And finally, this section addresses the next review of the MDP, making a suggestion that that occur prior to the end of the next 10 years, although recognizing that County Council may initiate a review at any point under their prerogative. That concludes our presentation. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and we look forward to seeing your input and comments on the draft Municipal Development Plan. Thank you.